3 kindred glid through the boardwalk like smoke, fluid in a way no mortal might be. Though they were civil and relatively safe amongst the kind, when it came to the notion of temporary immunity to immediate violence in their presence, it was a guarded pairing. The inexplicable mystery kindred and the 2 nomads spoke openly about matters only those that craved the blood could understand, in lingo that only they might discern, peppered with honest small talk. "So you came for the concert?" asked the goth kindred while flicking his head to coax the hair from his eyes. "Yeah," said Eddie, who was tall and goth by deed more than by choice. "It's just something we're going to have to deal with. Bands we once loved dying out, their voices lost to eternity," said the mysterious kindred, waxing poetically. Sue and Eddie chuckled. "Did you say their voices lost to eternity?" Eddie said with a playful chuckle. "Yeah? Okay," Eddie said, as if the way this one spoke was like he was writing an emo kid's suicide note. If the mystery kindred cared at all, he did not show it. "What's your favorite song?" he asked the 2 drifters. Eddie looked away and up in thought. "I'd have to say, Rat in a Cage." "Good one. What about you?" Sue chimed in when it seemed as if he weren't going to say. "The beginning is the end," he said. The swell of people began to become denser as they approached the concert hall. The wharf was partially built over the lake, and even at a distance it was clear to see that Opeligo Hall sank into the water, a true testament to the ingenuity of man. "How long have you been doing this?" asked the smaller kindred in a shaky and uncertain voice. Eddie looked at the stranger, but not too hard, and never directly in the eye. He addressed that question with a measure of tact. Telling another vampire how old you were potentially could give one a read into how powerful you were. As innocuous as this stranger was, he was still a shark, with teeth, the same as any other shark, and may strike when blood was in the water. "Since '84 for me," said Eddie. Sue seemed as if she were going to answer herself, but Eddie subtly shook his head. "Last I came to Furlong, the camp sent in Banu Hakim specialist to oust Tremere," said Eddie, fishing for crumbs of information about the current climate of the city. What this stranger said might well determine how long they would stay after the concert. "Banu Hakim won. They're still in control. The Tremere have been trying to take it back ever since. I don't like talking about politics, though. It's boring. You're new. I'd rather know about you." "Fair. What's your name? We'll start there," said Eddie. "I don't really have one. People just call me Sad." "Sad?" Sue questioned for clarity. "Yeah, that's been the only name I've gone by since I was turned. I try to stay out of the others' way, seeing I don't have a clan, no protection, in a world of monsters." "How do you even survive, then?" Sue asked. Sad twisted his head, whisking away the hair from his face. "However I can. I don't stay too long in one place, and I don't make enemies. What's your name?" "Eddie and Sue," said Eddie. "You sound a lot like us," Sue said. "I could tell when I saw you," said Sad. "So, Sad, are you going to let us get through the concert before you narc on us?" asked Eddie. "Narc on you?" Sad chuckled. "I barely talk to kindred. Why would I want to deal with the prince or the sheriff?" Eddie shrugged as if he didn't know what exactly he may or may not do. "I just want to live until I can't anymore. Living in their world isn't what I call living," said Sad. Eddie smiled, because that was precisely what he thought. They moved through the masses as wolves through sheep. Oddly enough, all the kindred involved bought actual tickets for the event. It would seem like an anathema for creatures that lived outside of the natural world of man and of their own kind to have done such a thing. But in the case of the music, they couldn't risk doing anything that could cause a stir and cancel or postpone the show. One misuse of a vampiric gift or getting spotted by mortal authorities and it could complicate things. Sad was right about one thing. They were no longer going to get infinite chances to see bands that they loved. So when the moment was gone, it wasn't coming back. Sad gave Eddie and Sue their space and let them observe the concert without him in their orbit like an unknown anomaly. When they entered Opeligo Hall, it sank into the lake, and there were thick glass windows peering out at the violent churning of water. And at their feet were viewable windows that contrasted the walls, showing the peace of what lay under the water's depths. Sue's eyes looked out in wonder, for she had very few moments of genuine wonder after her world became shadows and death. There were actually different lights that were affixed under the water to provide more atmosphere. When they waited amongst the crowd for the show to start, they whispered amongst themselves. "What do you think of Sad?" Sue asked Eddie. "I think if he hadn't been turned, he would have put a razor to his wrist in the 90s. "I think I like him, though." "I do too, but don't get too comfortable with him. We may have to rip his heart out to get out of the city," said Eddie. Sue rested her head on Eddie's chest, hoping that didn't have to happen, but knew it very well may. The concert was worth everything that they hoped it would be, and worth floating in the town in the middle of the night for. Eddie was filled with a bittersweet joy when the pumpkins got off stage, remembering what Sad said about how every time he saw relics of the past, it could very well be the last time. As the crowd dispersed and filtered back into their mundane lives, the two monsters had to decide where they were going for the night. They didn't have the luxury of a lazy, carefree sleep. Anytime they lay their head down, there was the real possibility that they'd never wake if they did it in the wrong place. They found themselves in the parking lot, and Sad appeared amongst a flock of teenagers as if he were always there, but they just hadn't noticed him until then. Sue found it extra odd that even she had difficulty finding him because she had eyes that missed very little. "Hey, you know where you're sleeping?" Sad asked. Eddie smiled. Even if he absolutely did, it wasn't as if he'd tell him that, no matter how much he liked him. "Yeah, I've got a few places in mind," he said. "Oh, okay. I mean, if you want it, or whatever, you could crash with me. I've been staying in that water tower over there in Ballaster for a few days. Nobody comes there in the daytime this time of year," said Sad. The emo stranger pointed at the water tower in the distance that was just barely visible at their vantage. Sue nudged Eddie with a bit of urgency. Eddie looked down to Sue with his rounded sunglasses. She cocked her head up to the crow that was perched on a streetlight. Sad followed Eddie's eyes. The emo stranger whispered as if he, too, noticed. "I think that's Kane. He's a hound, if that's him." "Oh yeah, what's his vibe?" Eddie asked casually. "Very aggro," Sad shot back.